I'm having a hard time choosing someone to handle my affairs when I die. What should I do? Boy, does this one come up over and over and over again. It's so important because that question could be like the biggest hurdle in someone getting started with an estate plan because they don't have anyone that they can trust. Now, if you have no family members or friends that you are comfortable with, underline comfortable, appointing as a personal representative in your will, you can appoint what's known as a corporate trustee to handle your estate. Now, many banks and financial institutions, they have that as an option. They have a corporate trustee who will manage your estate for a fee, of course. But another option is that you can have the corporate trustee to work alongside a family member that you identify in your will or trust to manage your assets. Like the person that you appoint, maybe a family member or a friend, can handle the personal property, and then you can have the corporate trustee manage the financial assets that may be a bit beyond the skill set or the comfort level of a person that you name to handle all those other things. And it's okay to do that. But I wanted to share that with everybody, that a corporate trustee, keep that as an option, in the back of your mind as you're thinking about, who to put in these important roles. The corporate trustee, they're regulated by law, and they have a fiduciary responsibility. That means that they've got to look out for your interest, right? They've got to ensure that your wishes, as you've written them out in a will or in a trust document, that they are carried out. And they're also obliged to act in the best interest of those of any beneficiaries that you've designated. So keep that corporate fiduciary possibility, in mind. Now, I want to add a follow-up, because when I saw this question come through, a twist to this question is, well, what if you have a few people in mind, but you're not sure if they're a good fit for a particular role? Now, I've addressed that issue in webinars that I've done and articles that I've written on my blog, on my website. And that focuses around the concept of putting the right people in the right roles, right? So let's say, practical example, you are a mom and you have little ones, right? And you want to, you need to name a guardian, okay? But you've got a few people in mind, but you're not sure if they're really qualified to. What should you look for? Well, first of all, let's think about what a guardian is. That person is really going to step in your shoes to rear these children, to raise these children. So think about, is this the kind of person that I want around my kids? Is this the person, can they model my values, my traditions, my beliefs? Or are they going to be able to honor those so that my kids are raised the way that I wish? Do your kids already have some sort of, a good relationship with this person? Does this person even like kids? Okay. I mean, let's be real. There's some people that just don't have the skill set or the patience to deal with kids, at a certain age. Something else that you want to think about when you're thinking about guardians is the person in a point in their life where maybe they're ascending in their career and they've got to travel quite a bit, and they're not going to be at home. They're not going to be in one place. So think about that. And if you've got minors or, or preteens, for example, you're going to need someone that's going to be there, for them. If you have a person who is, up there in years, they're elderly and they've got some health challenges, with all due respect, that may not be the ideal person to name as a guardian for your children, because if something happens to that person, then what, right? And if you don't have a successor guardian or a backup guardian, if you will, if that makes it easier to understand, then you're going to have a problem. So you really need to think carefully and be intentional about the person that you choose to put in that role. Let's look at another role, say a power of attorney agent, right? Somebody that during your lifetime, because as we know, the power of attorney is only effective during a person's lifetime. Who do we know? Who do we trust? First of all, it needs to be a person who's trustworthy, a person who is responsible. This person is really going to be stepping in your shoes when you are incapable of handling your affairs. When, if you're in the hospital, for example, this person is going to be interacting with banks, with investment houses. If you have to buy or sell property, if you are corresponding with maybe the IRS or some other, government agency regarding benefits, is that person going to have the right temperament to manage your affairs responsibly until, you can get back on your feet? If there are some people who may be really nice, but let's say if they're bouncing checks all over the place, if they're really irresponsible, and they really just have what you'd call kind of like a sketchy, lifestyle, that may not be the person that you want in the role of really any role, but particularly the role of power of attorney agent. So think clearly about putting the right people in the right roles. And before we even start that conversation, I want people not to start considering those roles from a place of guilt, like I owe someone a role in my estate plan because they are my sibling, because they are my aunt, uncle, whoever, godparent, whoever. You don't owe anybody anything. All right. And I'm going to say it once and for all. You don't owe anybody anything. This is your estate plan. And it just frustrates me because I know that that's, that guilt that people come to my office with, like, they have 3 adult kids, and they want to, give them all a role. Well, if Susie and Johnny are irresponsible and Mary's the only one that's got a good head on her shoulders, then guess what? Then Mary is probably going to have at least one or more roles. It's not about appearances, and it's not about guilt. It's about being responsible and not leaving a mess behind for those you leave behind. Not leaving a mess for those that you leave behind. So I tell my clients, if you want to paint me as the bad guy and say, well, my attorney suggested X, Y, Z, go right ahead. Because I would rather you do that and come out with an estate plan that you are confident in, that you've made, with just certainty, and that you leave with a sense of empowerment. I would much rather you do that than to create documents out of guilt. And I never recommend that to any of my clients. And I actually advise them to just, step back. If they're in that guilt space, then we need to have some serious conversations until, we can get you out of that guilt space, because that's not healthy at all. So enough of me on my soapbox, but I'm really passionate about that because I care about my clients and I don't want them to make just bad decisions, right?